Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us again today. I'm your host, Jason Brand. I'm the Director of Outreach and Partner Development here at Supply Chain Solutions. And welcome to our Freight Market Roundup 2.0. So we have a host of changes we're going to be rolling out over the next couple of weeks, starting today. And the goal here, it's always been the same. We want to be able to give you as much accurate and effective information as possible in the shortest possible period of time, keeping it really easy to digest, really level one when it comes to just talking about anyone who's really not normally used to the supply chain environment, nor used to the shipping environment, being able to step in and learn something new, as well as someone who is more advanced, learning about what we're thinking about and what we're making our decisions around. So I'm really excited about this 2.0. Starting today, we are going to be making this even shorter. So if this is your first time here, or if you've been with us before, this is our Freight Market Roundup series. We also call this the FMR for short. So what I'm going to do today is I'm just going to run through our major ocean shipping lanes. We're going to discuss what our customers are paying now, what they were paying in the past, what the trend that we're seeing is, and a couple major factors influencing each lanes. Then we're going to get you guys back on the road or back to the rest of the day. Make it quick, make it easy, make it informative. Now, what we've done in the past is we've had these little deep dive chunks within the episode. We're going to split those off. They're going to be something entirely different. And what you're going to be seeing is those deep dives are going to go into some of the things factoring into what's happening in our customers' business that they're thinking about, what's going on with the tariffs and how is it affecting us? How is it affecting our customers? Really, all of these topics that need a little bit more information on, we're going to split them off. We're going to break them down into really short 2-minute videos, and we're going to post them up on our page. So make sure you like this video. Make sure you follow us at Supply Chain Solutions to get the algorithm looking in your direction, sending those your way. And, make sure you let us know which ones you like, which ones you don't like, which ones you want to see more of. So anyways, without any further delay, let's get this show on the road. And starting off with our Trans-Pacific lane, obviously focused on ocean shipping. And we're specifically talking about the shipments that are leaving China and Southeast Asia and headed into our U.S. West Coast ports. So as of this week, our customers were paying an average of $2,460 per 40-foot equivalent unit. And that's representing a decrease from the $3,000 or roughly $3,000 per FEU we reported on March 6th. Roughly an 18% drop over that 3-week span. Now, there's a couple factors influencing this right now, but the big ones are we've got a post-Lunar New Year lull. And this is actually a very typical phenomenon. It happens yearly. It's been very kind of muddied and masked in the past few years from the fallout of the pandemic. But generally, after the Lunar New Year celebrations, factories in China and Southeast Asia, they just often experience this slowdown. And that leads to reduced shipping demand, which consequently leads to lower freight rates. Now, the second big factor here, and this has really been a big factor for a lot of the other trade lanes as well, but this shipping lane in particular is suffering a lot from this, and this is surrounding the tariff uncertainty. So the most recent tariff hikes the Chinese market experienced from the U.S., it led to this little mini rush of shipments prior to that hike's implementation, and that's been followed by a subsequent dip in demand, which we are seeing right now reflected in these lower than normal rates. Now let's keep this show on the road. We're going to be moving to our Southeast Asia and China shipments, but this time, instead of going into the West Coast ports, we're talking about the shipments destined to the U.S. East Coast ports. Currently, those customers of ours that are shipping to the East Coast ports from those origins I just mentioned, they're averaging a shipment cost of $3,450 per 40-foot equivalent unit. Remember, that's just for the ocean portion. And that is down from $4,050 per FEU, which we talked about on March 6th. That is a roughly 14.8% decline in price over that past 3 weeks. Now, obviously, we still have those same factors influencing this lane, the post-Lunar New Year's lull, and then also the tariff uncertainty. But one of the big factors I forgot to bring up here and forgot to really mention in general, we have talked about it in previous episodes, but it is the U.S.'s proposal to impose substantial fees on China-built ships docking at U.S. ports. And, this, as you can imagine, has caused a substantial amount of pushback from the vessel operators themselves. They have pretty much unilaterally claimed that if they see these port fees, they're simply going to eliminate their multi-stop transits. And also, they're going to pass on any of those new costs directly to the U.S. importers themselves if they are the ones paying for the shipment. So stay tuned. We're going to do a whole deep dive bite on this and probably have to break into it a couple just to talk about it from a couple different angles. But do make sure you're liking this video and following SCS to make sure you are in touch with those deep dive bites when they come out. Next up for our major trade lanes, we have the transatlantic lane. And specifically, we're going to focus on the shipments that are leaving those European ports and headed into the US West Coast. Now, as of this week, our customers are paying $3,550 per FEU, which is just a slight increase from the $3,537 we reported earlier this month. Now let's quick switch destinations. European shipments. Now, instead of the West Coast ports, we're going to be going straight to the East Coast ports. Currently, our customers are paying $2,140 per FEU, and that is basically unchanged. Earlier the month, we reported $2,150, so a $10 difference over the past 3 weeks. Now, there's a couple reasons why these prices are so stable at the moment. And the first thing, which we have talked about, but it just has to be reminded, is that prices right now are historically very low and very close to their lowest prices, even if we go all the way back to 2018, 2019 levels prior to pandemic. And this is despite so many things. This is despite the new labor contract. This is despite the inflation that's occurred. This is despite all of the substantial port upgrades, particularly on the US East Coast, that happened during the pandemic to just allow those ports to handle larger ships and also store more goods near the ports. So not including any of that, this price being so low is very, very impressive. And it should signal that, the price needs to go up, but really it should signal what's going on with demand. Now, second, at this moment, Europe is dealing with some higher than normal port congestion. And it does happen to be centered around some of the key ports. Rotterdam is a big one that's getting affected at this moment. So, more or less, this is not, you generally would see congestion raising rates, but this is kind of keeping rates where they're at. We probably would see these rates even drop a little bit further if this congestion wasn't happening at the moment. Now, finally, let's move on to our last major shipping lane we like to cover on this show, and that is our China and Southeast Asia to Europe port trade lane. Now, currently, our customers are paying an average of $2,230 per FEU, which is our second sharpest decrease this week. On March 6th, we reported this lane costing our customers around $2,700. And so the price difference is reflecting roughly a 17.4% drop over the past 3 weeks. So there are a lot of factors influencing this lane as well. But the top of the list, obviously, we've still got this post-Lunar New Year lull we're dealing with. In general, we've got some lower demand, but this trade lane has really heavily been impacted by the Red Sea crisis. And over the past month, it's been a very on and off nature of, are we using the Suez Canal? Are we not using the Suez Canal? And that is having a dramatic impact on capacity, but really having a dramatic impact on how these carriers can deploy their capacity in a strategic way. Because obviously going around the Cape of Good Hope is a huge increase to shipment length, and pulling vessels and then having to get forced around the Cape of Good Hope is just a challenging gamble. Anyway, as I mentioned earlier, you got to make sure you follow us at Supply Chain Solutions. That's our page. Make sure you like this video so the algorithm tunes in. We're going to be trickling out a series of deep dive bits from everything we've talked about today, plus more. You're going to find those on our page. I hope the show fit really nicely into everyone's post-lunch hangover for us in the Eastern time zone. And a big thanks for being with us here today. Make it a great week, and make sure you tune in next week, Thursday at 1 p.m. We've got a special episode for you. We'll find out more about that later today. Thanks all. Bye.